Hey everyone, Ekman here with another video, and today we have two different breakdowns for two different regionals that happened this past weekend in the North American region. We have the Carta Magica online regionals that happened with a 512 cap, as well as the Top Cut regionals with a 1024 cap and this top 32 breakdown as well. So real quick before we get started, first, if you guys appreciate these videos, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It means a lot to me. There's a lot of time and effort going into compiling these deck lists, finding them, and putting them on my website, so I would get a lot of appreciation from that. But also shouts to both Top Cut and Carta Magica for not only running these events, but doing the live streams for them too. So for the Top Cut event, for the Carta Magica event, we had Risu and Brock doing their event. It was on their Twitch. It should be back highlighted on their Twitch in the next little bit too, so you guys should be able to have links to that, and I believe it should be re-uploaded to their YouTube if you guys want to see the matches and stuff. But also for the Top Cut one, myself and Garrett from Worst Generation were doing the commentary for that, so it was a really fun time. I'm really appreciating the opportunity to do that as well for everyone, and it is on my Twitch right now, and it will be re-uploaded to my YouTube this week if you guys want to watch it here. I'm going to say by Friday. I'm aiming for Wednesday, but guaranteed by Friday that'll be up here. So if you guys want to watch those, it will be on YouTube and edited down to the matches in the next couple of days or so. So that's what we got for those. But we're going to jump into talking about these events in general. So and we're doing a double feature for this one because there's honestly a lot of decks to kind of go over, and they happen at the same time. I just kind of felt like one video is better than two separate ones for stuff like this. So for the Carta Magica one, it's probably the worst pie chart I've ever made for this format. We see 10 whole Newgates in this top 16, with one of them winning it, as well as 2 Laws, 1 Queen, 1 Katakuri, 1 Zoro, and 1 Rebecca. And on the other side, for the Top Cut, we see kind of one of the better pie charts I've made for this meta, and this is a top 32, so it's kind of like just more of a snapshot. It is it was a 1024 cap. It was 856 players, both 9 rounds of Swiss. So for the Top Cut one, the pair down did lose, ending the tournament a round early. But we have 9 Newgates, 6 Laws, 5 Zoros, 3 Queens, 3 Aces, 2 Katakuris, and 1 O's for the OP04 Dofi, 1 Nami, 1 Crocodile from Starter Deck 3, as well as a Rebecca. So again, we do see more of like these potential 1-ofs kind of slip through the cracks, I feel like, especially since we get to see a top 32. Even if we like double the amount of entrants for these events, it just kind of gives you a better idea of like some decks that can do well and can, high roll and just be piloted very well too. So I also am surprised to see a little bit more Ace, but it is a deck that I've seen a little bit more of in general, and Queen's been doing pretty well, and it was in both events in their tops, so that's pretty cool. So but we're going to go over the top placing list for each leader, kind of bouncing between events. Again, if you guys want to see all the deck lists that we cover and all the ones we didn't cover, they're going to be on my website, which is linked below, and it should be a really good resource for not only this tournament but all the other OP04 tournaments that have happened for the English format too. So we're going to jump on into it though with our first place list. So we're going to talk about both their Newgate. So this is Eric's list for Newgate, as well as Manish's list for Newgate. Both won both respective regionals as well, and at least both of them are running the different like 2 variants for this leader. So we have Manish here running the straw beard, and then also Eric here running more of the pure not straw beard, but the pure white beard version of this deck. So I get a lot of kind of people telling me like, what deck do I like more? Like what variant do I like more of the 2 of them? And I feel like the straw hat one is probably the more consistent one more of the time. You don't really high roll as much. You just kind of focus on getting your curve out and kind of going from there. And but I feel like the Whitebeard Pirates has kind of a higher ceiling, and being more consistent and finding the 9-drop if you need to. And like it's really like Ace and Luffy are kind of interchangeable of what's kind of the better like boss or like mid boss monster for this deck, and being able to be searchable off of this deck. And Ace and Thatch I think is very strong, but being able to get your Luffy's and also all of your events that Nami can find, I think is kind of helpful too. So you'll see like in this version there's like they're the same amount of events. We got 7 or 8 to 7, so one more event for Eric here on the pure Whitebeard Pirates. But Nami being able to find that in the Straw Hat version is very strong. But again, like I think there's like some better top end targets with again Ace, Thatch, and Newgate that Ezos can easily find too. So that's kind of the idea. And if you see like there's some like 2K counters that are more interchangeable between the two of them. Otama and Makino are pretty standard at 4 at each, even though they're not searchable. Both of them kind of offer a different utility for different reasons, and that's very strong, and just kind of everything from there. So this is Eric's list and Manish's list for first place for both events with Edward Newgate. Moving into our second places, so we have Holden with Queen for the Carta Magica regionals, and Holden was the one who got first place with Queen 2 weeks ago in the Play TCG regionals as well with again Queen, and I think because of that, I think Holden doing so good, and spoilers, Holden was also in the finals as well and wasn't able to clench out a second win, but this deck does have, I think, a lot of power. I think Holden being able to show people just how strong this leader can be has kind of re-sparked a resurgence of people playing it, which I think is really interesting and really cool. And I'd say like this is probably like Queen is topping pretty regularly since he got his win with it too. So it is a strong deck. It's very obnoxious. You have quite a big top end of 3 Katakuri, 4 Mihawk, 4 Yamato. So really, really high end, but that also means that you get to see these very often, and you always kind of have like a removal target with this, which is nice. We're also running 3 Soga King, and they're also running 4 copies of the Sasaki, which I do like this occasionally as a 2K and being able to refresh your hand, but I've been testing this a little bit too, and I do sometimes miss out on the 1-drops and being able to say, let's say I have 10 cards in hand and I want to be able to play like a Katakuri and a 1-drop, and I like just needing to get less cards in hand to be able to get my heal effect without having a 1-drop. Having the cheapest thing I can play as a 3-drop can be a little bit expensive sometimes. So that's my only thing about it. I think that's the only like change I would make with this build personally, but obviously Holden knows what he's doing. He's been doing very, very good with Queen, and in between 2 events they've had a 17-1 record with it. So that's the list there. Congratulations to Holden for their second place finish. And then also for the top cut regionals, we have Mykael with their Zoro. So this was also in the finals, and spoilers, also lost to Newgate there, but very strong deck. We've been seeing Zoro pretty common. Honestly, before this event, I don't think it's been topping that much. I think it's been getting like the Stray 1 and 2, and that's kind of what we've been seeing for this one. We only had 1 top in the Carta Magica regionals, and then we only had like 4, 3, 5, but in a top 32 compared to a top 16. So it would have been like 2 or 3 if you kind of spec it down as well. But I do think the deck is very strong. It has a lot of strength for what it is. There's the builds with the events and without the events. I'm still kind of a believer in the events version. I think you just have more potential to answer a lot of cards on your opponent's board and being able to just use them. The only issue is that you can be kind of clumped up with a lot of these events, which Fire Fist does help you get rid of some extra events and get that value if you need to. But again, I think Kit Course also helps convert them to. I like the Jambay. Being able to just kind of go from game, especially with Fire Y'all, is very strong, and it's we have our big 1-drop army. That's not too crazy for you. We also have this 1-drop Gordon, which I think has been a decision point for a while, but I also know it's been kind of going up in price as well. But I do personally believe that Gordon needs to be like a 2 or 3 in Zoro. It's just been very strong, and I think it helps you get some really good trades when your opponent's not really expecting it either. So this is a list. Congratulations to Mykael for their finish there. And then we're going into Katakuri. So this is Michael's list here for Charlotte Katakuri, and not anything too wildly different except for the additions of Charlotte Cracker, which has been I think one of the cards that has been a decision point for a lot of people. It's when we already have Sanji and we already have Perospero, we don't really need more cards that play off life from Trigger, but this is a good card and can help you get like you back into the game if you have like a good double attack timing for it. But I do agree, like it's probably like the weakest one of these 3 that you could be playing, and a lot of people have been cutting it. We also do have the Charlotte Katakuri from the starter deck, and I do agree, like sometimes this will come up if your opponent's not expecting a card with Rush. It's very, very strong. I do like it in decks that aren't Katakuri because it does give you kind of the Katakuri effect of looking at the top card of your life or your opponent's life and moving it to the top or the bottom. So even if you're just playing this on curve for tempo, being able to kind of rearrange the cards in your life or your opponent's life is strong. But since it's something you already get from our leader, I usually like this in like Lin or sometimes Yamato. I think that helps it out too. But this kind of a attack ad that I don't see as often. And since we have so many 4-life leaders as well, it's hard to play this on curve while also being at less life than our opponent. But it does show up and it can kind of catch your opponent off guard as well. So, but we have 2 of the Lin, 2 of the 8-drop Katakuris, 4 of the 10 drops, and then 3 Thunderbolts. Pretty common there. 7-drop Linlin, I've been seeing this has been like a decision point too. People like it for Yamato, or they just like to have 4 of the 8-drop Katakuris. This card is really, really good on curve, especially if you are kind of forced to go first because you usually want to go second. But outside of that, it can just be kind of stuck in your hand at the same time. So anyways, this is the list. Congratulations to Mykael for their finish there. And then next up, we have 2 Trafalgar Laws. They got 6th place in both events. So I want to just cover both of them real quick. So this is Adrian Prado's list here. And also shouts to Adrian. I know he's been grinding some of my box tournaments too. So really cool to see him get a top 16 finish as well. And then you also have Thomas Nguyen with their copy of Trafalgar Law. And I would say like Thomas's list is probably like the standard in a lot of ways. Like the Makino is like the one choice that maybe kind of I do generally like running Sanji more, but I also play against a lot of people who play more of like the slow control matchup and less of like the aggressive at times. So I think Sanji is less important when your opponent's going to be very, very aggressive. And then also 4 copies of Vista with the decision point between Vista and Boa Hancock most of the time. I think both have their pluses and minuses, and especially since Vista you can bounce back to your hand and play it again with its on-play effect. Is very, very strong, but the and also you can combo with an Otama to get some more removal if you need to. But in general, again, this is a moderately standard list for it. And then we also have Adrian's list here, which has a little bit more of the text for it. First thing you're going to notice is that we're not seeing any event cards in this version. We also do have 1 copy of Urouge, which is a supernova and can be helpful for some of your plays. For 1 Dawn, if you have 3 or more characters, it gets plus 2k power. So on your turn, it becomes a 6k, and your opponent's turn, it becomes a 5k if you meet the conditions. So it's kind of like a mini version of the starter deck Zoro, which we're also running. And I do think that this card's been a little bit less favorable. I think more people have been kind of just bumping up their copies of Rush Zoro instead of the starter deck one. And just kind of the immediate value. Like, how many times have we seen, your opponent plays the 4-drop Trafalgar Law, they use the effect to bounce something, they play the 3-drop Zoro, and then they get like extra pressure with it. So I do think that is a good combo, and we see, again, like the Nico Robin. We're also seeing like the 1 of Makino, funny enough, between both of them, and then also the Basil Hawkins, which I do like this card when it's on board. When it's in my hand, it's kind of tricky to do anything with, but since you can use your leader effect to get this out on board for cheap, it is, I think, a good like tech card if you like to play it in Trafalgar Law as well. So anyways, this is the list. Congratulations to both Adrian and to Thomas for their finishes there. Next up, we have our ace players. So we have Deep Patel and Kevin Mai, who got right next to each other. I think it's like 7th and 9th place. 9th and 10th place with ace. So I want to just go over both of their lists real quick. They're moderately similar in a couple things. The big difference is that for Deep's version, they are playing Curly to Dawn, and I personally think this is needed in the leader. You have such a hard time building board presence naturally that just playing Curly to Dan, finding like a buggy, playing buggy, like being able to have 2 3k bodies on board, even though they don't do much by themselves, they do kind of help you do some trades or some pressure and just signify another attack, which means your opponent kind of has to play around it a little bit. So now if you don't like those, you can play some rush cards. Neither player did play them, but that's something there. And then just kind of a good amount of events. We do have Deep playing 17 events, and then also we have 20 whole events for Kevin for this one. Both in playing the 1-drop Marco, only Kevin's assigned to play the 9-drop Newgate, which I think 9-drop Newgate is good, but is not needed necessarily in Ace, especially since we're only playing 1 of it, because we can only play 1 of it. It's hard to kind of build your gameplay around seeing it, because there will be a lot of games where you don't see it, and it's kind of a difficult decision there. But for the events that we're running for Deep, we have the Table Manor Kick Course, Rad Beam, Seaquake, Whitebeard Pirates, Guard Point, Crossfire, Fire Fist, Jet Pistol, and Flame Emperor. And then also some additional kind of unique ones that we see from Kevin are the Round Table, as well as the Fiery Doll, which I don't think the other one, only playing the Crossfire. So being able to play like more of these events, I probably wouldn't expect Fiery Doll as much from Ace, but it does help you push for game. The biggest thing that I find with Ace is that it's less about how big your attacks can get and more of how many attacks can you get in a turn. So again, building a wider board with the Dawn helps you with that. But also we do have like Pell in the version of Kevin's. So this is kind of like a worse copy of Marco. But Marco is still a really, really, really good card. So having a worse copy of it is not bad. It lets you KO something on attack with 4k power or less, which means you can use something with like Round Table to get a guaranteed KO on anything. This also works for Marco too, but Marco you have to play Round Table then Marco, which is 9 Dawn in 1. But with Pal you can kind of play it preemptively. And if your opponent's playing something big next turn, you can just immediately get rid of it before it gets any value. So that's kind of like the difference between the two of them. Your opponent kind of has to answer Pal, and if they don't, you get a lot of free removal with it, which is really strong. Other than that, nothing much more than that. It is cool to see Ace. I've been playing with it myself for the last couple of days, and it's been really good. It's been better than I thought it was. I think it has some good meta picks, and I think that's really cool. So congratulations to both Deep and Kevin for their finishes there. Next up, we have Joseph with their Donquixote Doflamingo. And Joseph was the pair down for round number 9 for us for the Top Cut event. So they did lose against a Newgate player, and that did kind of force the early end of the tournament. But we did end up seeing his matches a lot through the day, and it was really, really cool to see. Not a lot of unique kind of picks for this one, but there's not a lot of room for that. I feel like in Dofi right now, the deck is really understood for what it looks like for what the film package, at least running a good amount of 2Ks between the choppers, shikis, and also the Buena Vista, being able to just our film stuff. I don't know. I've been talking about this deck for a little bit now. They're mostly the same. We play bins because it's not a strike attribute. It's a special attribute, not a slash attribute like Zoro. Otherwise, it's fine for doing that. We're also playing the one copy of Krieg, which is nice, being able to get rid of a maybe like not useful card in hand for it, like a guild at times, but then also being able to get rid of 1 or 2 of your opponent's cards with a 4 cost or less that's rested is good. But that's also pressures double attack if your opponent doesn't get rid of it. And 7k is usually kind of good body, especially for a 6-drop body too. So other than that, our events are 4 Punk Gibson, 3 Bagua, 4 copies of Spiderweb, and 1 Union. And this is usually what we see 12. I usually just like the first 3. Union's okay. It's a little bit tricky, and it did kind of help Joseph by being able to help them ramp up a Dawn when they needed it, which is good. But it's kind of how it is. But I do like this deck. I do think it is a little bit linear at this point. It's kind of understood how it works. You are really dependent on finding kind of like Nami early or getting that early advantage. But if you're able to kind of set up the guild and be able to loop it with Dofi, you get a lot of power. And it's really difficult for your opponent to kind of answer and play around too. So this list, congratulations to Joseph for their finish there. And then next up we have our Nami players. So this is Cade's list here, and by Cade's list I mean the Nami list. We were able to watch one of Cade's game on our stream for Top Cut, and I'm not going to spoil who won it. I do recommend you watch it. It was a lot of fun to commentate, and it is fun to see how Nami players play out, and it's always like a grind of like, oh, who's ahead? Are they able to push enough damage to get the win before it happens? And again, I highly recommend checking out that match for that one. But other than that, this is the list for Nami. It's the only one that tops consistently, and I don't really have anything more to say about it personally. So this list here, congratulations to Cade for their finish. And then next up we have Brian with starter deck Crocodile. And Crocodile was doing really good, I think, at the beginning, like the first couple of weeks of the format, but it's been kind of trailing off a little bit. I do think it does have a good kind of issue against Newgate at times, which can put it down a lot of ways. Trafalgar Law and Zoro can kind of be tricky. Zoro, I think you can get some footholds. Law you can as well, if they, being able to get the removals you can with 3000 Worlds and Gum Gum Red Rock. But also the Dragon Twister, I think, is such a good card. People are kind of respecting this card as existing now too, which means that you won't catch as many people off guard with it. But being able to get, even though I read this card, I'm like, man, it's just a 1-drop. That's not terribly good. Like, why would I want to get rid of a 1-drop? It's still very good. Like, it's really, really strong against what this current meta is kind of, showing. It can get rid of a blocker. It can get rid of help thin out a Law's board. It's very, very good. So But other than that, it's kind of like the builds we've been seeing. We have the Centaur package, which is pretty standard in Crocodile at this point. We have the ulti. We're running 4 whole copies of Soga King, which if we are really committed to, the going first play and like using this to get as much value as we can, I do think this is very strong for you. Obviously, it's not a really big body on board. It's only a 6K, but it is big enough to at least pressure Newgate on board. So I do like playing this card. I don't know if 4 is the right number, but it is like the largest I've seen in a minute for it. Usually people go 2 or 3, but again, it does get a lot of value for you there too. Also 4 Mihawks and 2 Kaidos, and then just kind of the regular package we see from there. So very, very strong. Ulti kind of a tech choice too, but not anything too wild. And again, if we are kind of committing to this going first play, ulti on turn 3 does disrupt a lot of opponents and what they're doing too. So anyways, that is the list. Congratulations to Brian for their finish there. And the next up we have our kind of finally, we have our 2 Rebecca list. And first of all, we do have Nicholas Powell, who got 15th for this one verifiably, just because he was the one who had the issue last week in the PPG event with having the exact same pairings and tiebreakers. So guaranteed their invite for this one, so congratulations to Nicholas. I'm 99% sure this is the same build, and Nicholas has like a really, really kind of standard build for anyone who wants to get into playing Rebecca. You're just playing the cards that kind of make sense, running up as much of the package as you can. That's the good part of the package, and then we're running a couple copies of 3000 Worlds and then 4 copies of Tashigi, and that's really it. So a really standard build, but it is very strong, and congratulations to Nicholas for their 15th place finish for the Carta Magica event. And then sneaking into 32nd place into the top 32, we got Albert with their copy of Rebecca. So this one's a little bit more wild. This one has a little bit more removal, specifically with the 5-drop Monkey D. Garp, which I do like this card. I've been seeing it more pop up like in like matches and deck lists, and the idea where this can just be not only a 6K body that your opponent's going to want to try to pressure down, but the fact that it gets immediate value kind of makes up for the fact that our leader doesn't attack, which is really great. And sometimes you do want to just get rid of a dead card in hand, like an extra copy of Coliseum. Sometimes like the Luffy is there, and then just being able to get that discard consistently every turn means that we get to use our leader effect and helps just help that cycle. So if we keep having like situations where you have like 7 cards in hand, using Garp to turn that card into a KO of your opponent's card, and then using a Rebecca effect to immediately get the card value back, I think is very strong. So other than that, this is like a super duper stall remove deck. I do think 10-drop Kuzan is like, pairs really, really nice with all the removal you want with this deck. Just means like this Kairos on play gets rid of a 6 cost or less, which is great, and just kind of the whole build for it there. So this is the list. Congratulations to Albert for their top 32, and we are done with this video. So I know this is a little bit of a longer one, but we've got a bunch of data, a bunch of decks for you guys to check out. Again, thank you again to both Carta Magica and Top Cut for running these events. Make sure to check out the live stream on my Twitch, and it's going to be re-uploaded to here on YouTube. Shoutouts again to Garrett from Worst Generation for doing the commentary with me, as well as Risu and Brock for doing it for the Carta Magica one. And I think that's going to be it for this one. So that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.